Welcome to today's Explainer. We've got a seriously wild, highly dramatic situation to break down for you today, and honestly, it reads straight out of a political thriller. But I promise you, it's entirely real. We're looking at a thwarted attack that was allegedly set to go down just this past Sunday at a massive White House Ultimate Fighting Championship event. Now, to set the stage here, this wasn't just your average weekend get-together. The White House was hosting this outdoor arena UFC match right on the South Lawn. It was set up to coincide with the nation's 250th anniversary celebrations and also U.S. President Donald Trump's 80th birthday. It was supposed to be this huge celebration, right? But behind the scenes, there was an extensive multi-state plot brewing.
And that brings us to the big question we're exploring today. How on earth did a TikTok group almost execute an attack at the White House? It is a pretty chilling thought. Now, just to be clear, we're looking strictly at what the Department of Justice and prosecutors have laid out in their court filings. But according to FBI Director Kash Patel, this was a massive multi-state operation by the Bureau, and they managed to stop these allegedly planned attacks totally cold. To really wrap our heads around how close this came to reality, though, we need to look at the sheer scale of the target.
Section 1. A high-stakes target. Let's look at the White House UFC event.
The vulnerability of this event literally cannot be overstated. I mean, think about it. When you hold an event on the South Lawn of the White House, the security logistics are already an absolute nightmare. But inside those gates, right on the lawn for these back-to-back UFC fights, there were an estimated 4,300 invite-only attendees. We are talking about thousands of individuals packed tightly into a temporary outdoor arena. But the crazy part? The risk wasn't just contained to the VIPs inside the gates.
Just outside the White House, gathered to watch the event nearby, were another 85,000 people. 85,000! Any kinetic action, any explosion, or honestly, even just the sound of gunfire would have caused a massive panic, creating a catastrophic ripple effect through a crowd of that size. The collateral risk here was absolutely staggering.
And this really illustrates just how ambitious the plotters were. Court filings allege the group was specifically hunting down what they called high-value targets. And they weren't just looking at one area of influence, they were targeting a cross-section of global power. On the political side, the documents specifically name U.S. President Donald Trump, Vice President J.D. Vance, and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Then, on the business side, they explicitly named Elon Musk. Now, prosecutors did note that not all of these individuals ended up actually attending the UFC event, but this list shows exactly who the group allegedly had in their crosshairs.
Section 2. Anatomy of the plot. Let's break down their tactical strategy.
When you look at the court documents, the FBI outlines this terrifying three-step tactical strategy. Step 1, the plotters allegedly aimed to strike nearby buildings using drones packed with explosives. And the goal wasn't just physical destruction, it was psychological. They wanted to use those drone explosions to spark mass panic. Then, step 2, they intended to use that panic to funnel the fleeing chaotic crowd directly toward a positioned sniper team, basically driving people right into a kill zone. Finally, step 3, while security forces were overwhelmed by the drones and the snipers, a second wave of attackers was allegedly supposed to storm the White House gate itself.
And look, this wasn't just idle internet chatter. Investigators allegedly found highly specific physical evidence. The suspects distributed operational maps of Washington among themselves using encrypted messages. These maps highlighted exact planned sniper locations, specific drone launch points, and they even pinpointed local power grids as potential targets to maximize the chaos.
Section 3. The suspects and motives. Who exactly were these guys, and why did they do it?
To understand this massive undertaking, we've got to look at the individuals involved. The Department of Justice arrested 5 men across 4 different U.S. states. We have 19-year-old Tyson C. Proper from Ohio, 24-year-old Brian Omar Roa, and 32-year-old Michael Allen Thomas, both from California, 32-year-old Daniel K. Eskridge from Missouri, and 31-year-old Abraham Hermosillo Alvarez from Nebraska. According to the DOJ, it was Alvarez who allegedly took point on planning, organizing, and directing this entire UFC attack, and he was the one specifically working on the drones.
So, how did 5 guys spread all across the country even find each other? Well, according to suspect Tyson Proper, who spoke with the FBI, they started communicating around March. They formed a group primarily through TikTok recruitment called the Vanguard of the Old, sometimes referred to in the documents as Vanguard of the Old Republic. Prosecutors described them as a group claiming to be made up of former military members and Christian-based individuals who shared ultra-religious and anti-government sentiments.
And their overarching goal? According to the prosecutor's allegations, the group wanted to shoot these wealthy and powerful attendees to, and I'm quoting directly from the documents here, jumpstart a revolution. They firmly believed that a massive, violent strike right at the heart of the capital would ignite a broader conflict across the entire nation.
Now, what specific grievances actually fueled this desire for a revolution? Online discussions detailed in the court documents reveal a really eclectic mix of motives. They talked a lot about anger over general government corruption. They were heavily focused on the handling of the Epstein files. And curiously enough, they also had deep grievances about data centers taking up all the water in local communities, alongside a few other government actions. It was this highly specific blend of online grievances that brought them all together.
Section 4. Stopped by a phone call. Let's see how this whole plot unraveled.
So, how exactly was a plot with explosive drones and snipers brought down? Believe it or not, it wasn't some massive cyber sting. It was stopped by a phone call. Just look at this rapid chronological timeline. The conspiracy gestated for months, forming back in March on TikTok. But the collapse? That happened in a matter of hours. Late on June 10th, just days before the Sunday event, a tip comes in. By June 11th, the FBI is already interviewing suspect Tyson Proper, and because of that incredibly tight turnaround, the Sunday UFC event was held completely safely on the South Lawn.
And who made that tip on June 10th? It was actually Tyson Proper's mother. She noticed her 19-year-old son was making massive, deeply alarming firearms purchases. She also saw what he was doing online, his communications with this self-proclaimed military group. So she made the incredibly difficult decision to call local authorities. That single phone call triggered the investigation into the encrypted messages, which unraveled the maps, the drone plans, and the entire multi-state network. She literally saved countless lives.
Section 5. Arrests and legal fallout. Let's examine the charges and penalties.
The justice system has responded swiftly and severely here. All 5 suspects have been charged with conspiracy to commit murder. If convicted, each man faces a maximum penalty of life in prison and a $250,000 fine. On top of that, during his FBI interview on June 11, Tyson Proper actually admitted to being part of planning the attack. Because of this, and his specific involvement, he faces 3 additional charges, including conspiracy to commit violence on White House grounds, which carries its own maximum penalty of 5 years in prison. A preliminary hearing for this case is set for June 29th.
We want to leave you with this provocative thought as you digest all of this information today. We just walked through a highly coordinated, incredibly lethal tactical plan involving drones, snipers, and multiple high-value targets. And yet, the members found each other, organized, and built this entire conspiracy through a TikTok group starting just a few months prior. It really begs the question, how vulnerable are our high-profile events in an era where complex, multi-state domestic terror plots can be organized almost entirely on social media? It's a harsh reality of the digital age that security forces are clearly still grappling with. Thank you so much for joining us for this explainer, and keep seeking to understand the news behind the headlines.